Celebrations for the 4th of July, America's Independence Day, are back in full swing after the pandemic. According to the National Retail Federation, close to 90% of Americans plan on celebrating this year, with 65% opting for some kind of cookout. The good news, while grocery prices are still going up, the pace of increases has slowed to about half of what it was last summer, although still high at about 6%. That means the price of a cookout has gone down slightly from last year's record high. For a party of 10, expect to pay close to $68, depending on what kind of meat you buy. Chicken prices have come down 9% since last year, as cases of avian flu have fallen. But beef is up 4% per pound due to the cost of cattle feed. Okay, joining us now, William Lee, Chief Economist at the Milken Institute. William, good to have you on again. Happy 4th of July early to you, my friend.
And to you, Sean.
Let's talk about, it's going to be hot. That's one thing that's going to happen across much of the United States this coming holiday. And as we talked about, those prices are going to be higher. Do you think that's going to make a dent in the 4th of July celebrations?
Sean, not only is the weather hot, but spending is incredibly hot. Everyone, as you say, seems to be traveling somewhere to enjoy their 4th of July vacation. We see that with the delays at the airports. And the latest numbers that came out about personal consumption has told us that people are just spending, and in particular on travel, international travel, and services. In fact, if there's anything they've cut back on, it's kind of consumer durables. Despite what we've heard about the Tesla sales booming, people have bought electric vehicles, but they cut back on other vehicles.
You know, you don't have to be a genius to look at what's been happening with the weather and know that legions of flights were shut down, canceled, delayed the past couple of days. So are people going to be driving a lot, or are they going to stay in their neighborhoods? How is this going to affect the amount of money that people spend?
Fortunately for this 4th of July, the price of gasoline has come down a bit. So people are, in fact, trying to avoid the airports as much as they can. But as I said earlier, a lot of the travel that's taking place now is international travel. Many of my friends have come back from Europe on river cruises, which they would never have taken in the past. So there's a lot of spending power out there. And that says something about the health of the U.S. economy, despite the fact that the Fed has been raising interest rates.
So when they have their 4th of July cookout, they can show all their friends the pictures they took on the river cruise. There's some food prices spiking, as we just talked about. Price of chicken is down, fuel a bit cheaper this year compared to last. What do folks spend their green on while they cheer the red, white, and blue?
There's a lot of spending on the usual hamburgers and pork, which has become much cheaper. And in fact, I hear a lot of pork recipes and pulled pork being served at barbecues now. But one of the things to keep in mind is that wages really haven't kept up with inflation. And so what we find is that a lot of the more wealthy people are spending, as we have just talked about, but a lot of people are trying to make ends meet. And you hear a lot of discussions about cutting back. Instead of a hamburger, they're serving pork chops because pork is cheaper.
Huh. Interesting. Do Americans turn their back on price hikes during the holidays? How do they feel about the rise in prices? What sort of things are you hearing?
One of the things you learn on Wall Street is that you'll never go broke betting on the spending habits of the American consumer. And in fact, this 4th of July has shown us yet again, people are willing to go into credit card debt. They're willing to take out some money. And in a way, the optimism about the job market has allowed people to say, even if I lose this job, I can find another one pretty easily. So you find people are spending much more than they would have under the circumstance that we are hearing about, that the Fed is trying to tighten down on the economy.
Well, listen, I want to talk about the Fed. Apparently, we can expect a couple of additional rate hikes throughout this year. How do you think the Fed is doing, and how is their work being received by people all across the country?
You know, the next FOMC meeting, I like to be a fly on the wall, because they're going to be scratching their heads and saying, why on earth did we pause? We knew, and we told everybody, we're expecting at least 2 more rate hikes, and we're going to pause just to see how the economy is doing. Well, they discovered, my God, the economy is much stronger than they thought. And so they're going to be, I think, pretty aggressively putting up interest rates to try to contain inflation. Inflation is coming down, but not fast enough. When the core inflation rate, as measured by the personal consumption deflator, which is their preferred measure, is still in the high 4s, and the target is 2, that's quite a distance to go.
Well, kind of break it down for me a bit more, because I keep reading people are still trying to buy homes. They're still renting apartments that they can find. Are people still buying cars? Are they looking for the big ticket purchase?
Well, the home question is really an interesting one. The place where the tight monetary policy hits the economy first, and biggest hit is going to be in the real estate sector. But if you look at the price of housing, it sort of bottomed out in January, and it seems as though the real estate market, the buying homes, has revived again. And so despite the high mortgage rates of 6.5%, 7.5%, people are saying, I'm going to take the bet that I can pay the mortgage rate now for about a year or so, and I'll refinance at a lower rate. And I think people are taking that bet because the need for housing now has exceeded the supply, and prices are really starting to revive again.
Yeah, and what's your outlook for the economy for the rest of the year? What should we be keeping an eye on?
I'm one of the people who are convinced that we're not going to be hitting a severe recession. If there is a slowdown, it's not going to hit the labor market to the point where people are worried, my God, I'm losing my job, I better start saving. People are obviously not doing that. The Fed is a hope and a prayer that they're hoping for is that they will be able to tighten the labor market, close down on vacancies, and not have to throw a lot of people out of work while bringing down inflation. And that truly is a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, William, so if we're going to have fireworks, let's just have them in the sky, not in the, not in the Fed meeting. Okay, thanks very much. We always appreciate it, and have a great 4th.
You too, Sean.